Rare Canadian science fiction vintage paperback. Hi, I'm Gary Lovisi, and we're going to look at one book today. This is just one that I happened to find when I was rooting around in the book den, and I happened to find it. I didn't even realize that I had it. And it's a 1950s Canadian science fiction paperback. The thing about it is, there wasn't that much science fiction published in Canada in paperback in the 40s and 50s. Because of the lower population in Canada, and also in England and Australia, when you're dealing with these books, lower population meant that the print runs were very, very short compared to American books. This book is Brigands of the Moon, and it's a Duchess digest from Duchess Publishing Company, Toronto. And the thing is that it's a one-shot, and there's very few science fiction published in Canada in the 40s and 50s. You had Harlequin Books that published about 500 books before they published their went into romance. And of those 500, maybe 5 were science fiction. There were 3 Golden Amazon books by John Russell Fearn. There was an A.E. Van Vogt book, and I think there was one other science fiction. So maybe there was 5 science fiction out of the 500. Most of the books were crime or westerns or whatever stuff. You had the Canadian White Circle books, which is probably around 300 books, not one science fiction book in there at all. And then you had Newsstand Library, where you had maybe 2 or 3. And so that's really not much science fiction at all in Canadian paperbacks, vintage paperbacks in the 40s and 50s, except for one, and that's Brigands of the Moon, which is like a very rare paperback. And it's got a great cover, robot kind of cover. And it's by John Campbell, who is, of course, John W. Campbell, the famous American science fiction writer, editor of Astounding Science Fiction and Analog, except it's not. For some reason, somehow, I don't know how it happened, but Brigands of the Moon is actually a book by Ray Cummings, who was a American science fiction writer, and he worked with Thomas Edison in New Jersey, in Edison's factories, creating his research and everything for Thomas Edison. But Ray Cummings also wrote science fiction. So this is Brigands of the Moon by Ray Cummings, but they screwed it up and they put John Campbell's name on it. So they did it's just a curiosity. It's a one-shot early science fiction Canadian Duchess paperback, digest size, very rare, and I just thought you'd like to see it. I came across it while I was rooting through some things, and I says, wow, I didn't even realize that I had this book. And I thought, people might want to see it, just to know that it exists and that it's out there. I saw one copy on eBay for a lot of money, and it's like kind of crazy, but this is a tough one, and it's by Ray Cummings and not John W. Campbell. So I think that's a kind of interesting curiosity about this book also. And it's got this cool cover. So just thought I'd say, bring this to your attention. Rare Canadian science fiction book. Not much science fiction was ever published in Canada up until in the 40s, 50s, or 60s. So here's something that's kind of a unique thing with a little twist on it. And I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.